Hey guys, it's Reese. I wanted to make this video on Easter Sunday because it's come up a lot in the last couple days of how faith is applied to business, and I've started to make a little bit of content, and so a lot of my immediate circle has been asking a little bit of questions about what I've been doing, and especially on a holiday weekend such as this, the conversation about faith is coming up a lot because people are starting to ask questions about how I've done what I've done and how I have been able to achieve the things that I've achieved. And I'll tell you right now, when I let people know that faith was at the forefront always, and there's been a guiding set of principles that I've operated on for a long time, and not perfectly by any means. There's been times in my life I've been involved with drugs and alcohol when obviously no one should have, and I shouldn't have been either. And all of the people that I've taken advice from that have been just powerhouses of examples, who are the strongest men of faith I've ever met in my life, every single one of them went through those challenges too. People that have thousands of employees, people that have hundreds, people that have, in the top four people that I take advice from on a normal basis, it's over almost $500 million in top line revenue between four people that I can go to and get advice for free. And I apologize about the shaky video, but I'm just in the truck, and it's something that I wanted to make and pull over and make sure I got this out of my head. And when I go through my story, it doesn't make any sense. When I tell people what I've done and what I'm currently doing, please explain to me how any of this works, because I'm not good enough to do it by myself. I'm 22 years old. I'm doing this next quarter. We'll be rolling about $350,000 to $400,000 a month. I just explain to me how that works. I started cutting grass when I was 15. I've actually got one of my original hoodies from high school, Southern Trends Landscaping. No one's ever heard of it because it was a business I had in high school, and I sold the accounts. But explain how you go from that, cutting grass in high school, to doing, $500,000, $700,000, $600,000 projects. My net worth will cross $1 million on paper, at least, in the first quarter of next year. Maybe a little bit sooner, but probably the first quarter. And explain to me how that works, because I haven't figured it out. And the only way that I can explain it is through faith and operating on a guiding set of principles and taking advice from people that have those same set of guiding principles. And I have paid tens of thousands of dollars over the last handful of years to meet with specific people, meet with powerful people to gain answers to the problems that I came up with along the way in business. And when I would hit a roadblock between a rock and a hard place, and you've got to make the worst, or the best choice of three horrible decisions, and there's not a clear answer, and I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers. People have seen on some of these forums I've been posting on, and they see these $500,000 projects and $250,000 excavators around everywhere. And, we've got all our guys that are, and perfectly dressed in PPE and hard hats and, all the little things that, you have to figure out. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this kid knows everything. He's got all the answers. And I absolutely do not. 100% don't. Don't take that out of context. And so where do I get the answers? Where have I gotten the answers for the last 7 years? I've gotten the answers from people that I viewed as credible. And coincidentally, all of the most powerful people that I've ever met in my life, people that have the private jets, the material wealth, the hundreds or thousands of employees. But more than that, I want to talk about this because this is massive. There are a lot of quote unquote bad people on the earth that are call themselves Christians, that kind of say one thing, do the other. There's atheists that are the most wonderful people on earth. When you talk with them, they're warm and fuzzy and all that. But I've never met a single one that has had all three pillars. And when I say this, there's three kind of buckets. There is business, there is personal relationships, which is like friends and social circles, and then there is family, which is like marriage, personal relationships, brothers, sisters, mom, dad. And I've never met a single person that had all three of those areas overflowing in abundance that wasn't operating on the principles, systems of faith laid out in the Bible. It is the only thing I've ever found that is a guiding set that people know that if you are paying attention to and you are endeavoring to live like the way Jesus walked on earth, people know and can trust your judgment because they know it's pure. And I have not read the entire thing cover to cover. I read about half, page by page, but I've read, skipping around and obviously, following sermons. And I am not a scholar. I didn't go to college for anything, but I didn't go to college for being a Bible scholar or anything like that. But I do know what's worked. And I do have a lot of people in my life that have been these, pillars of light in the darkness, per se, where I'm going through incredible hardships and, having to fire best friends that I don't know the answer to, and, having to come up with a lot of, tons of money in a tiny period of time, or else horrible things happened, and, having to make a terrible decision in the heat of the storm. And how do you navigate that kind of stuff consistently over a long enough period of time to get the results that I have? And again, I haven't arrived at all. I mean, what we're doing is a tiny drop in the bucket compared to a lot of the people that I take advice from and I plan on being in the future. But how do you keep going? How do you get out of it every time? When I was 19 years old, I had done enough stupid, horrible decisions to get over $300,000 in debt, 80,000 of that being in credit card debt with 18% interest due. And how do you get out of that? As a teenager, what do you do at that point? And I owned 100% of that company at the time, and there wasn't anybody else. I didn't have rich parents to bail me out. I'm sure they would have tried to help, but I don't know what they would have done. And what do you do? What do you do when your back's against the wall? And there's really not a clear way to get out of it. You get down on your hands and knees and you figure out who made you, and you figure out what the person that made you was thinking for your life and what those principles say. And that might sound vague if you've never been a part of faith, or you've never been a part of a religion or Christianity, or you've never been to church or had someone explain it. But I think a lot of people can't get their head wrapped around it because they've never met or heard of people that applied it and put it all on the line, and where you don't have another choice. And so you take these guiding principles and you make the best decision you can. And I promise you, if you go along with that and you connect yourself with other brothers and sisters of faith that are using these principles, putting their life on the line for others in their business, in their personal life, I've never met anybody else that has had the fruit on the tree. Ignore everything else about reading every day and doing this and doing that and going to church for your whole life. I don't think any of that stuff matters, and excuse me for saying that, because if you don't put it all on the line, you're never going to figure out if it works or not. And I am a very pointed person when it comes to, do you have results or do you not? If you don't, get out of the way and let's find someone that does. And all of the people that I've met, and I'm going to say this again, the ones that had everything. I've met people that have jets and helicopters and a whole bunch of money, but they've been divorced 4 times, their kids hate them, and they're stressed out of their mind. But all of the ones that had the whole picture, they had the beautiful marriage, they had the kids and the family that was wonderful, and they had material wealth you cannot even imagine. And more or less, outside of everything else, they have peace of mind and they're at peace with themselves. And that is something that I endeavor to be like. And at the very least, if nobody else takes this message and it doesn't pique your interest, then you'll hear this message again. And I hope some of y'all follow along. I'm not going to have a course. I don't have a guru thing that I'm going to do. I invest into companies. And I have a very crystal clear picture of what I need to do in the next decade to be an absolutely, indescribably extraordinary example of what is possible by using these guiding principles. This year I'll do a little over $4 million a year. And like I said, my net worth will cross a little over $1 million sometime in the first half of next year, maybe sooner, probably not. But in the next decade, because I have these people in my back pocket and I can take steps that I understand will work on earth, because I know what's written and I know what is made for me and I know who I was made by, I will use that example as a stage. And I don't think you can describe how I've done what I've done by myself, because I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not that smart. I'm not that good. I can't make that many good decisions in a row by myself. But once in a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, I believe with those kinds of principles, I can become a world power. I do believe that. And the only reason and the only thing I'm going to be able to explain at the end of that time period is how it happened and who it happened by and what I used to get there. And you're going to hear this message again, and I hope it's going to hit you harder than it does today, because I believe if you do understand these principles, and again, consult with someone that's not me. I'm not a pastor. I don't understand a lot of those things, or how to explain them properly or politically correctly. But if this does pique your interest, shoot me a message, and I'd love to talk to you about it on the phone or anything, or message or whatever. I'll do my best to respond to everybody. But I believe in my whole heart, my heart of hearts, that your marriage, your relationships, your friends, your family, and your business can become extraordinary with some ordinary principles. The Bible, Jesus Christ. So I hope you guys have a fantastic Easter. I hope this helps. If something I said made you frustrated, leave it in the comments. Let me know. And if it connected with you and you want to explore faith a little bit further, I'll do what I can and leave a message. And I hope you all have a great Sunday.